Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Today's topic is we have a new Coverstone Dream, and I think it is important. Now, before I get started, I want to tell you a personal example of what I'm talking about. Because in our quest to try to make certain that we only get truth, find truth, we're not deceived, the challenge becomes what's God and what's not. What's just pizza, or did you really have a dream from God? So I can tell you an example. I had a dream a number of years ago, and it showed me that I was going to just about miss an exit off of the interstate. And so I turned quickly to get the exit. I thought it was clear, but it wasn't clear. And I ran into the front quarter panel of a pickup. I wasn't hurt. It put a gash in my car, obviously, but it turned the pickup truck over. And the guy wasn't killed or injured or anything, but nevertheless, it scared me. So I started praying like crazy. I mean, like several times a day, like almost, the Bible says, pray without ceasing. That's what I was doing. Lord, don't let me make a mistake. Don't let me hurt someone. Don't let me have an accident. Don't let me run into someone. And I was constantly praying this several times a day. I'm going to say it wasn't long. I'm going to say 2 or 3 days later, sure enough, I was driving down the interstate and they moved. They moved the exit. The exit was not in the same place it had been for years. You know, all of the road construction and everything. They moved the exit. And just as I was thinking, oh, I can make that dream came back to me. And I missed the exit. I just went on by it. I took the next exit, did a U-turn, went around. It only added probably 10 minutes to my whole day. But I didn't have an accident. And sure enough, there was a car there. Had I done what I would normally have done to try to catch that exit, I would have hit that guy. I don't remember if it was a pickup truck or not, but the point is, if I hadn't been praying, don't let this happen, it would have happened. And I won't go into it, but there's been other cases in my life where God would show me a dream. I remember one specifically. I'm not going to go into it. Frankly, it's embarrassing. Okay, you know, we ministers are not perfect. I was about to make a big mistake, and God warned me. I never even told Leslie the dream. Frankly, it's embarrassing. Okay, I shouldn't be doing wrong things. You know, we try to be perfect, but we're still human. Okay. Hopefully you appreciate me being honest with you there. But I prayed, and I kept praying. And sure enough, it was only like 24 hours later, and had I not been praying in normal circumstances, I would have stepped the wrong way and would have got myself in a pickle. Now, what I'm trying to say is this thing today, I think, is very important. But God often gives dreams to people, and they don't understand them when it comes to Bible prophecy anyway. Now, I mentioned this to Leslie. She says, yes, but the person that receives the dream is always in the best place to interpret that dream. And I said, totally agree. But in some cases, God gave it to them, but they don't know where to go to get all the information to understand it. Now, I love Dana Coverstone. I'm certainly not criticizing the brother. I love him to pieces. But he's not a big prophecy student. He's a pastor, okay? And there's some things that are said in this dream. I asked him if he understood the dream. I haven't got an answer back yet. But my guess is he probably didn't have all the understanding. In other words, sometimes, how do I say it? Kind of like the old saying, you know, you just don't know what you just don't know. If you don't know and understand something, then that part of the dream doesn't make sense. That part of the dream might be something very important that cues the whole dream. So I can tell you right up front, this dream here is not easy to understand. I think God has given me the interpretation. I pray every day, Lord, give me knowledge, skill, and learning, wisdom, understanding all visions and dreams. That's part of my daily prayer. I think that's a major, plank within our ministry, that we interpret dreams and we're able to tell you when this is God and when this is not God, okay? So that's what I'm going to do with this dream today. I think it's very important. Now, before I jump in there, let me give you two scriptures. This is Laban the Syrian, not Christian, not of God. He was the enemy. But God spoke to him in the night and said, don't touch Jacob. Don't touch him. And it scared Laban so bad, he did not. Okay, he did not touch him. Then the next one is God speaking to one of the prophets. He says, if there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision and will speak to him in a dream. So I believe probably you've been following Prophecy Club a while. You know God talks in dreams and visions. But just in case we have some people that are new, that don't know that, it's going to be important what we'll be talking about today. We're almost there. September 11 through 14 is our Prophecy, Healing, and Deliverance Conference. Look, we're probably only going to have this conference this year. And right now, I don't see a conference coming next year either. I don't see us probably doing any more conferences until the judgment hits. And then we're going to see great miracles. And it's going to be really, really busy from there on out. So I encourage you to come to the Prophecy, Healing, Deliverance Conference. I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. Aren't you going to be live streaming it? Actually, no, we're not, for several different reasons, and most of them are technical reasons. But the point is, if you want to be a part of it, you need to be there. It's not too late. Go to prophecyclub.com and sign up. If you want to see it, but you can't make it, then we're going to make it available at watchprophecyclub.com the following day, meaning whatever's recorded on, say, Thursday will be posted on Friday at Watch Prophecy Club. But here's the problem. Somebody praying for you on TV or radio, is that the same as having hands laid on you? Is that the same as getting oil anointed on you? Is that the same as 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 people laying hands on you? No, it's not. That's the reason you want to come to the Prophecy, Healing, Deliverance Conference. Now, this is a short version, but essentially we're going to have 6 ministers. This tells you can pause and look at the different titles there, the different things we're talking about. I think it's going to be an awesome conference. And I encourage you to go to prophecyclub.com, get signed up. When you go there, this is what it's going to look like. It's September 11, 12, 13, and 14. Now, as I'm recording this, this is September 1. By the time you watch this, you're looking at 9 or 10 days. Some of you might not be able to drive. Some of you might need to buy some airline tickets. The closer you get to an event, the more the airline ticket costs. So it's only going to cost you more the longer you wait. So I encourage you to come. Love to meet you. Love to introduce you to Leslie and the rest of our ministry team. Come and see the Spirit of Prophecy Church and, what we do and what we're all about. Again, September 11, 12, 13, and 14. Get signed up at prophecyclub.com. Also, let me give a plug for Prophecy Club Crypto. If you are thinking about getting crypto, then my recommendation is you go to prophecyclubcrypto.com, fill that out, click return, and they will call you back shortly. And they will help you to make decisions on crypto. Now, here's the difference. Gold and silver is important. It is a store of wealth. When you have wealth, you don't want to lose. You put it in gold and silver, okay? When you need to make money with part of your wealth, then, and I can't give financial advice, I'm not giving financial advice, but according to what Jonathan Rhodes said, you put it in crypto. That's his advice anyway. But fill out that, click on it, they'll call you right back, or you can call the 877-649-6732. Okay, let's get to the dream. Now, for you to understand this one, I have to give you the interpretation in advance for you to put it all together, or you could get lost in the wax. You know what I mean? Okay. So here's the interpretation. The woman, almost always in prophecy, a woman is the church, but it is the church's dollar, the church's or the USA dollar, the American dollar. that dollar is giving birth to a new digital currency, a new way of exchange around the globe. Okay, so the woman represent the church because, I mean, who was it won World War II? Yeah, it's America. It was the church part of America that won it, okay? Not the sinners, it was the church. So then they set up the dollar as the world reserve currency. So the dollar is the church's currency for the globe. So with that understanding, let's go to the next part. Also, it's going to talk about a hazmat suit. Now, what's a hazmat suit? Well, hazmat suit is to keep out something away from you that could damage you. Now, that could be radiation. That could be some kind of a virus or a bug or something like that. But in this case, I believe it's radiation, and I'll explain to you why. I think it's talking about suitcase nukes. Now, before I go any further, if you are looking for gold and silver, palladium, rhodium, or something, some kind of precious metal like that, 800-200 gold. Especially if you have an IRA or 401k, you can now, at no cost to you, transfer that from your IRA or your 401k into actual gold and silver. 800-200 gold or 4653, and they will explain it to you. That's why we talk down south. They'll explain it to you. All right, now, here's the dream. As the dream began, there was a woman in travail. Okay, that means the church is in travail. Okay, so I'll ask you, is the church in travail today? Oh, yes, it is. As the dream began, there was a woman, or the church is in travail, and close to giving birth on the table below me. Right now, the church's dollar given to the church right after World War II is in the process of giving birth to a new currency system. Period. That's what it's trying to say here. There was a woman in travail close to giving birth on the table below. There were several doctors and nurses in the room, and their faces were completely covered. But in watching the area where I was, it was standing room only. It was filled with, now look at this, elected officials from both federal and state positions, movie stars, athletes, reporters, and foreign leaders. In other words, this is a big, big, big deal. Now, think about it. When the Genius Act was passed, when it brought the digital currency on a one-to-one exchange with the dollar, what it did was make digital currency the global currency along with the dollar. And it's saying that it's not a church move. The woman is talking about the church, in other words, Christians. So it says, filled with elected officials from both federal, state position, movie stars, athletes, reporters. A lot of the world people are watching for this new currency to come out. Now, I know they don't talk about it much on Fox News and a lot of other places, and people outside of Prophecy Club are probably pretty well uninformed on this. But if you've been following Prophecy Club, that's not the first time we've talked about this. All right, let's go on. Athletes, reporters, foreign leaders, and they all had clipboards and were writing furiously on the papers with thick permanent markers. They were putting marks on the papers and passing them around. Now, what it's saying is the notes that they're passing is not important to know what they're saying. What it's saying is that the elected officials, federal, state, movie stars, athletes, reporters, all kinds of secular people are watching this thing really close. And they're passing notes around. No words or phrases, just marks that were not like any signs I recognize. They were also pushing to be in front of everybody else. Why? Because the early bird gets the worm. The one that can get in first into the digital world, and that's why you want to back up right there. ProphecyClubCrypto.com. Let's go on. Next page. Every time the woman would cry out in pain, okay, so every time the church complains about the finances, that's what it's saying, the people would tell her, would yell at her to deal with the pain and just give birth to it. In other words, the world doesn't want the church speaking out. Why? Because the church doesn't want a digital currency. Why? Because the church knows it's going to lead to a world government, so that no man can buy or sell digital mark of the beast currency. That's why the woman is crying foul. The woman doesn't want it. Then the walls were moved out, and I could see that this was a production studio. In other words, a lot of it is for show. And there was an audience watching this play out. I'm now sitting on the front row with a crowd of at least 1,000 people who are totally focused on the set. There's a lot of people that do know about this. I'm talking about a lot of. I can't talk about it, but there's a lot of people watching. That's what it's saying. That's true. Now, I understand just because you hadn't heard, I'm sorry. But I assure you, there's a lot of people watching what's happening, and that's what this is saying. It's saying this new currency system that we've been talking about is here. Now the number of doctors and nurses had doubled, and there are even more people on the floor with clipboards. There are huge TV screens and monitors on the wall behind the woman, and they are showing clips and videos of things happening around the world. In other words, when this thing goes public, it will be big, big, big. Everybody around the globe is going to see this new digital currency come in. Now, right now, I think it's funny. Okay, so the Genius Act gets passed. It goes right over the head. Nobody even talking about it. They don't see, unless they're a prophecy student, what's really going on. Let's go on. The woman then let out a blood-curdling scream, and a nurse put a towel over her mouth and very firmly told her to settle down. That's what they're saying to the church. They're trying to muzzle the church. They're saying, look, church, I know you think that this digital currency is a terrible thing, but we like it. Why? Why? Because it brings in the mark of the beast. Because it puts their man on the throne, okay? The primary doctor went to a side door and let in a person, here it is, wearing a full hazmat suit. What did Jason Meeks say in his dream? He said he saw the digital system come in, a new currency system. Then President Trump became president of the United States. I talked to a couple last night, and I said this. And she said, well, he's already president. I said, yes, he's president of what? Of the all-capital United States of America. Did you notice he didn't put his hand on the Bible? Now, I know it kind of looks like it was a mistake and they kind of missed it. But it might not have been a mistake. It might be because he was not swearing allegiance to the all-capital United States Corporation, but instead plans to put his hand on the Bible for the new, that's not part of the name, Republic of the United States, where they suspend the current Constitution, bring in a new Constitution, this is what Jason Meeks saw in his dream, massive arrests, people rejoicing in the streets, and then what happened? And then what happened? And then what happened? Suitcase nuke. Could it be that this is confirmation that the change of the money has to do with suitcase nukes? That's the reason the hazmat suit is worn. Well, how else can you interpret it? Let's go on. And they approached the bed of the woman. He lifted the sheets over her legs and examined her. All the while, the nurse was holding the towel over her mouth and shushing her. The man in the hazmat suit said, it won't be long, so prepare for the birthing. Just like me driving down the road, God warned me that they were going to move that exit, and if I had not paid attention, I'd have been in an accident. If you're not paying attention, my brothers and sisters, you're going to be in trouble. That's what it's saying. Won't be long. Are you hearing it? It won't be long, so prepare for the birthing. Birthing what? The whole new financial system. We've been talking about this since what? I don't know. Well, I've been talking about it since 2012. Let's move on. The nurse repeated those words to the woman, and I realized by her face she was not in her right mind. Tell me about it. The church is all messed up in lots of ways, right? She appeared drugged and agitated, with the veins in her face very large and pushing through her forehead. She was red and tense, and her eyes were darting all over the room, looking at everybody. See, right now the church is in confusion. Yeah, we won a big election. Yeah, our man Trump is in. Yeah, we're happy, but we're also looking around saying, what's going on? I've never seen anything like this before. Let's go on. Hey, see that part about hazmat? That's the reason you might want to have one of these. It's a EMP Shield. Here we go. One I've got here on my desk. EMP Shield, put one on each one of your cars, on your house, so that when you got 38 prophecies saying suitcase nukes got to go off, that's money in the bank, or I should say radiation frying your car or your computers. If you'll go to empshield.com, use promo code prophecy, get you a $50 discount on each of the units. Okay, let's go on. So the TV screen showed people fleeing urban areas. What does that sound like? Sounded like suitcase nukes went off to me. Read it again. The TV screen showed people fleeing urban areas and running to their cars with suitcases and backpacks. That's like what Coverstone saw in another dream, isn't it? They showed traffic backed up at airports and runways, filled with planes waiting to depart. There were clips of people not getting signals on their phones, and they were lined up outside of stores and very angry. Why? Because a whole lot of electricity is now not working. The electronic pulse, the EMP, okay, from the nukes burned a lot of things up. Cell phones, all sorts of things, okay? Again, you want to have one of those. Not getting signals on their phones, and they were lined up outside stores and very angry. Wall Street was reported as having no way to look at trades or shares or prices, and markets around the world had all gone dark. What's that sound like? What's it sound like? Give me another excuse or explanation other than suitcase nukes. Governments around the world were talking to each other and trying to put out the social fires. And the real fires started in their countries. What did Shane Warren say? Give us our entitlements. People shouting and burning things down. There you go. One scene showed an aide yelling at the Prime Minister of Great Britain and asking, "What are you waiting for?" He turned the TV on in the room and pointed at it and said, That. I'm waiting on that. What? What's he talking about? The big change. The big financial change. Now, I do not know when it's coming. Believe me, I wish I did. But if I had to guess, if you were a close friend, if you and I were sitting in church and church pews next to each other, and you turn to me and say, Stan, what's your best guess? I'd say September, October 25. At least 25. That's my best guess. I don't know nothing. That's just my guess. It was on the screen of the woman about to give birth. She was now straining. Her back was arched, and the veins on her forehead seemed close to bursting. The man in the hazmat suit sat on a stool at her feet while the people in the room were crowding around and pushing each other to get close. In other words, everybody wants to know when this event happens. This is the greatest financial event in human history about to take place. That's what the dream is trying to tell us. If we have ears to hear, sad to say most people don't. The man in the hazmat suit sat on the stool at her feet while the people in the room were crowding around, pushing each other to get close. The TV screens flashed the words, "Silence, please," and hold applause until after the arrival. The crowd watching from their seats on their feet, with some holding their hands over their hearts. The guy at the woman's feet put his arms out and spoke to the lady quietly but firmly. "When I say push, you push. Do you understand?" I then noticed that the woman was actually fighting the process. Bingo. Who is it that's resisting the coming of the digital currency? Not the devil's crowd. They think it's wonderful. They think it's going to be able to bring in the Antichrist, set him on the throne. The only one complaining about it are those people that read Revelation 13, know that there is a digital currency coming so that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark of the name of the beast and the number of his name. Let's go on. He then spoke to all of the people around the woman and to those seated and watching in the audience. Quote, "We have waited a long time for this to arrive." Well, let me tell you, some people have waited 25 years. I won't go into that. "Many of you are to be thanked for your sacrifices and your plotting." Plotting normally is from the wrong side. How do I say this? I won't say it. I understand it, believe me. I understand what's going on here, but I shouldn't say it. Let's go on. You will now see the cooperative efforts that the nations and the leaders of the companies have produced. There are some, 202 nations that have been working, cooperating in the background to bring this event about? Yeah, okay. I've been working on computers, all sorts of things. For many years, we've had dreams and visions, people talking about it. Among the crowd around the woman many began to grab their chests and drop to the ground, as if they'd had a heart attack was taking them down. The man said, "No need to worry about these, as it was their sacrifice, their lives, that made this event possible. Their reward is on the other side." Now, we Christians think that that's talking about in heaven. That's not talking about the other side. It's talking about the other side because, see, Lucifer has lied to them and told them that when they die and they've been serving him, they're going to get many, many rewards. They're not going to like the rewards they get. That's what it's talking about. This is mostly brought in and allowed by the devil. He destroyed our current system. Now he's bringing in a new system so he can control everybody. You remember Henry Kissinger said, and he who controls food controls people. He who controls energy can control whole continents, but he who controls the money can control the world. That's where this is going. The man said, "No need to worry about these. It was our sacrifice, our lives that made this event possible. The reward is on the other side." Then people in the audience around me began to die as well, and many started running up the stairs trying to run away. I looked back and saw the man I know in the dream sitting in the very back seat. That's the angel. Things shifted back to the birthing woman as she was screaming in pain, and the man in front of her reached down and pulled the baby from between her legs, and the two nurses wrapped it in a purple and blue cloth. What are the colors of the church? Of the priests, high priests? Purple and blue. The mother said no, quietly, and then took her last breath, and her eyes stayed open on the baby, meaning that soon after this the church leaves, I believe. The TV screen showed people were all looking at the child now being lifted into the air by the man in the hazmat suit. Some on the screen cried in joy, while some took off running as if terrified of what they saw. Then someone yelled, "Cut!" A production man in a suit and a tie came to the front with a clipboard and said, "Folks, that is the end of the production, and new episodes will be filmed right here weekly." In other words, all of this is a put on for a show. They can bring all of this new currency in anytime they want to, but they have to have a show to get people on board. Please come back and please hand in your scorecards and notes to the receptionist on your way out. The dead on the floor got up, and the woman who had given birth left the bed and was wiping makeup off her face and forehead. People in the stands that had supposedly died now all got up and went down to the floor where the scene had all played out. The man, meaning the angel, came and sat beside me in front row. Here is the point. It all seems like a show with a great script, and they even think they know what is going to happen before it does. This talking about the evil that's bringing this in. They imagine and scheme and plot not to get hurt by what is coming, but they won't beat it. This thing they want so badly is going to cost them their lives and their livelihood. It will require blood, and it's much more than just man or a system. See those words, a system? That's proof what I'm saying is true. This is the new financial system coming in. It has a will. It breathes. It lives. It requires blood. The Antichrist. Let him that has ears hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. This is a warning to the church. And let him discern and test those spirits with absolute scrutiny. When something in your mouth is not good, you take it out. But some things need spit out far away from your table. The church needs to spit more out, lest it become poisoned, weak, and diseased. There is one that is coming, and the world knows it, and it waits. Talking about the Antichrist. But they ignore that I am coming too. Talking about Jesus. With that, he stood and said, "Watch with your eyes and your heart, and keep your hands open." My brothers and sisters, it is talking about a new financial system coming in. And they think it's going to be really, really good for the Antichrist, but at the end of the day, Jesus still returns. Jesus is still in charge. They still don't get their way, even though they think they are. Now, I think that the new financial system coming in will be good, And Pastor Massey had a dream where the Lord spoke to him and said, get your money out of it within 6 months. In other words, it starts good, just like everything else the devil does, then it turns bad.